Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Griefdrums, and today we are going to be taking a look at Operation Steel Wave. Now, I was fortunate enough to get invited along by Ubisoft to actually play this early, so I've got a lot of the inside information, and having been able to get my hands on both of these new ops, the new house rework, and as well as a lot of other little minor changes that have gone on to other operators that you may not know about, I'm really excited to be able to break down a few of the things that are coming with this season. Now, unfortunately, because of the way that this test had to go on, or the early access was granted to people, I don't actually have a massive amount of gameplay content showcasing sick clips of the new ops, and that is purely down to the fact that COVID meant that we had to do all of this remotely, and organising 5v5s was very, very difficult to do because everyone's working on different schedules. But nevertheless, I do have some clips, I do have some things to showcase, and we're going to try and go through as much of the information for this season as I can. So by now the reveal has happened. You will no doubt be aware that Ace is the brand new hard breach attacker that is coming as part of this season. And I'll be honest, I wasn't ready for it. I did not know that this was coming at all. Certainly not when I got to play. I was very, very fortunate that I avoided all of the leaks and I'd managed to just, not see anything. So when I loaded up the game and got to try it for the first time, I was blown away at this new gadget. I really was. It was so strange to see another hard breacher. Now, forgetting the fact that Ace does look like a really bad superhero, I really do think there's the potential here for a bit of a meta shift, if you understand what I'm saying. If Thermite gets banned out, very often you are forced to either take Hibana and have a smaller hole to go through, or alternatively you are forced to take Maverick and Buck, or, Maverick in some form of soft breach to try and burn through the wall, make it soft, and then go in. Well, having Ace available is just going to negate that completely. The whole banning hard breach, it's not really going to work because there's so many options that the attackers have got now. Now, as far as this guy's gadget goes, I would definitely say it sits somewhere between Thermite and Hibana. So if you think about it, Thermite is very, very good at opening an entire wall so you could just run through. You get huge lines of sight from it. And Hibana would kind of be the opposite, where she's slightly better for hatches, but you can use her on a main wall to make sort of, even if you use all three on one section of the wall, it's never a brilliantly big hole. Ace is somewhere between those two. Now, his gadget does seem like a little bit slow. It makes a hell of a lot of noise, and you can definitely bandit trick it. We tried this a couple of different ways. It's really easy to hear when it's going onto the wall, and quite frankly, the fact that it gets destroyed by electricity puts it in the same ballpark as every other hard breach, except for Maverick. But the fact that you can bandit trick this, the fact that it's very easy to bandit trick it because of the amount of noise that it makes, I think that's kind of all offset by the fact that Ace brings so much utility. He really does. The dude comes with the AK-12, which is probably the best gun in the game for attackers. I think it's got the highest damage per second. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong there. But certainly statistically, it is an incredible gun. So to have that on a 2-2 operator, people were just shredding with it. They really were. Anyone we played, if you saw an Ace, you were getting shredded. It's kind of like Twitch when you took her for the F2. This kind of feels the same, only, there's not the drawback of being a really slow operator like Fuse. So with the AK-12, the ability to breach through hard and soft walls and smoke grenades, this operator is amazing. Now, when you do use the gadget, you are going to want to place this roughly a third of the way down the wall. Because of the way it works, it only opens up a third of the wall, but that's not a massive issue. You can still get through the wall even if you place it too high or too low. But just from personal experience, when I started placing it about a third of the way down, that was kind of optimal. There are other ways to do this. You can do it right at the top and leave a section of the wall at the bottom if you wanted to play closer to the wall and actually use that as a form of cover. And one of the other things you can do is actually just open up the whole wall by throwing all three of these down, or at least large sections by opening two. Now, when you start thinking about places like Consulate, it's very, very difficult for Bandit to try and trick all three walls. So having the ability to place one down on the left-hand wall, and then as it's going off, and Bandit's trying to sort of deal with that, you can place one down on the right-hand wall. This does make it interesting, actually, the fact that he's got three of these. So you've got a bit of room for error. If Bandit does manage to get one of them, he just has so much damn utility. One of the really fun and interesting ways to actually get the most out of this operator is because the gadget goes off in sort of 3 intervals. It hits onto the wall and then it creates the first explosion, moves down, does a second explosion, and then moves down and does a third explosion. The second the first explosion goes off and there is a nice big hole in the top of the wall, throwing the smoke grenades in through there to mask your entry The instant the second explosion goes off, you can be vaulting in while the noise of the gadget moving down for the third explosion is still covering your entry. You could have your entire team in and no one's even going to know about it. Now, I wouldn't use this operator for hatches, not unless it's the dire moments of a round and you need a hatch, because it's going to cost him 2 of his gadgets, and with only 3 of them, I feel like that's a bit of a waste. But if you need to, and like I say, it's down to the wire, you could use him to get through a hatch. You can pick the gadget up if you throw it onto a surface that is not destructible, and if you wanted to use it on a floor, you're only going to get 1 explosion out of it, much like the hatches. It doesn't do the whole moving down thing. I'm assuming this is something to do with gravity, or that's the idea behind the gadget. The gravity isn't moving it down. Instead, it just blows up straight away. So you get 1 nice, clean line, which can be pretty handy for getting that line of sight. But again, you're probably better off taking breaching charges instead. I'm hyped for this operator. I really am. I'm really keen to see what the community can do with him. But let's go ahead and take a look at the defensive operator now, Melusi. Now, with Melusi comes the meta of noise. I'm not even joking. This season is going to be probably the noisiest season you have ever played on Rainbow Six.
Operation Loud Noise. They'll make it like a club now, guys.
And it comes at a very strange time to introduce this defender, because let's be honest, there's a lot of people unhappy with the 20-second meta. There's a lot of people unhappy with the quantity of utility dump that needs to go on just to remove the Evil Eyes, the Goyo shields, the Jaeger ADSs, the Wamais. There's a lot of different gadgets that are being utilized at the minute by defenders that attackers have to get rid of before they can actually make their push on the site. Melusi is not going to help that at all, and she's going to be extremely beneficial to the defense. And quite frankly, I was talking about a meta shift with Ace, but I really do think that the meta shift this season is going to be a really strange one. I genuinely do. The sheer quantity of noise that is going to be going on in rounds that you're going to have to try and make sense out of. Couple that with the fact that Melusi's gadget can pretty much replace barbed wire. It's going to be strange. Nevertheless, this is going to be one of the first seasons that we actually see operators that have been brought into the game in which I think entire sections of strats could potentially be formed around these ops. Melusi is a prime example of that. So if you don't already know, she comes bearing 3 of these things called Banshees, which basically work like a bulletproof camera in the sense that you have to either take them out with explosives or by punching them. And good luck doing that, as soon as you are in the radius of this thing, it makes a hell of a lot of noise and it slows you right down, kind of like Clash does. Fortunately, it doesn't affect your DPI at all. This is pretty similar to Ella. Ella has already undergone a change as well. So if you go through a Grismot mine, you do not actually undergo the DPI shift, you just get disoriented. Now, if you don't know what a DPI shift is, it means that your sensitivity gets adjusted really, really low, and it kind of makes it look so that looking around is like going through treacle. You have to move your mouse or your analog stick really, really far just to turn slightly. That is no longer the case anymore, and it also, that applies to Melusi as well. You don't get any sort of a DPI shift. It doesn't make it difficult to aim, but it does make it extremely difficult to move. So if you are halfway down a corridor and this thing just triggers and activates, there's no getting away from that. And the person at the far end of the corridor can quite easily jump out and just destroy you without you moving fast at all. As I say, they are similar to Clash, but they don't actually hurt you like the electricity does, so don't worry about that. They do, however, massively alert everyone in the area to exactly where you are. These do work on a line of sight, so you can hide them around corners, and the second that person rounds a corner, it suddenly starts going off. Just inside the door frames works well, but I found that halfway down a corridor, hidden behind like a chair or, one of the small console tables that you get, stashed halfway down a corridor, hidden behind one of those could be really effective. But one of the most interesting things about these gadgets for this operator is not just the quantity that she has. 3 does seem quite a lot, but the fact that it works over multiple floors. If you go ahead and open up lines of sight through floors, this will still get you if it is a floor below, and good luck punching that thing. Now, immediately when I'm thinking about this gadget, I'm thinking of places like Villa, the classical hallway on Villa. If you go ahead and place one of these downstairs in the library where someone hasn't really spent their time droning or looking, and then open up great big lines of sight with a shotgun on the floor above, anyone that tries to push that classical hallway, if they haven't already gone downstairs and shot this Banshee out, they're going to be in for a real rough time. She's also going to link up really well with operators like Smoke, or alternatively Goyo. This could be what Goyo needs in order to propel him up the ranked charts, because whenever they release the stats for that, Goyo is massively underpicked, and even when he is picked, he is way too weak. Yet in Pro League, we see just how effective he can be. But utilizing Smoke and Goyo with these Banshees, once they get into that radius and then the fire or the smoke goes off, they're going to struggle to get away. There is kind of a counter to Melusi in the form of Finker. Her Finker boosts with the nanobites. It kind of speeds you up a little bit, but not a noticeable enough amount, if I'm completely honest. Personally, I would have it so that if you take a Finker, it doesn't really do anything to you. That would be the better way to get around this, and would work as a direct counter rather than sort of a tiny little bit of an ability, because at the minute, I just don't think the speed change is enough to warrant taking Finker. I can already start thinking of a few different places that I would like to use this gadget, certainly on Clubhouse, down in the blue corridors towards the basement from Oil Pit and the garage area. I reckon down there could be really interesting, and you can also use these kind of like for kill boxes. You put them in a room, and then as and when someone comes into that line of sight, you can just absolutely spray them down, and there is very little they can do about it. So other than the brand new attacker and defender, both of which I think are going to see a hell of a lot of play, we do obviously get things like the Ela DPI change that seems to be present, as well as many other changes, Amaru being another one. As and when you yeet through a window, your weapon is going to be up so quickly, it's unreal. She is literally made so much more viable now, because you're not just going to get tanked the second you come through a window. Would I take her every single round and still yeeting through windows into the objective? No, probably not. I think you can use her smarter than that, but I do think she has become a little bit more viable, with the delay between her going in through a window and bringing her gadget up being reduced massively. The casual house rework is obviously here as well. That is a really welcome addition. I was kind of worried about it initially, but the house itself is actually still house. It still plays very similarly. There's just some minor changes that have gone on and some extra rooms that have been added, but I think they've done a really tasteful job, and I think it is going to play better than it did previously. Whether it's going to be ready for ranked or not remains to be seen. I guess we'll have to just wait and see. But at the minute, it is a casual rework. On the whole, I'm really excited for this season. I think this could be an interesting one. Credit the map. Probably being stuck in casual isn't going to make for any brand new incredible content for those playing ranked. But nevertheless, I think the attacker and the defender could change up certain defenses quite drastically. Could elements of this season be frustrating, along with like the secondary gadgets of proximity alarms? Yeah, I reckon it could probably get pretty annoying pretty quickly for a lot of people. But it's going to be interesting nevertheless. You're going to have to work around it, and you're going to have to get used to a lot of the new aspects. And I think that's going to be interesting. It's going to add something to the game that requires a little bit more thinking. You can't just go running down a corridor, because you're going to get hit by one of these proximity alarms, or alternatively by one of the Banshees from Melusi. And if that happens, I think you're going to get caught out. This could be potentially extremely effective against things like Ash Rushes. So I can't wait to see how this plays out. There are lots of little minor changes and moving of secondary gadgets to make way for the proximity alarms. Couple that with the ACS-12 shotgun for Alibi and Maestro now shooting slugs. There are enough interesting little changes to keep me occupied for the next couple of weeks, just trying different stuff out. I'd love to know your thoughts though. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Are you keen for the new attacker and defender? Do you like the new map? Do you think it should be in casual, or would you rather see it over in unranked or ranked? What do you think? Let me know. I'm hopefully going to be bringing some more tips and tricks videos to you very soon, potentially about these new operators and the way we can interact with them. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay reckless and relentless.